Okay, here we go. I think we've got everybody on fully. Thank you for changing your names. That helps us a lot, and helps all of you. So, welcome. Today is the first day we've invited President-elect to also join this call. So we have some new faces and some faces we've seen on calls previously. So let me just kind of give an overview of the format of this, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm Crystal Wallace, Senior Vice President of Membership and Chapter Relations at CAI, and I met some of you at conference. Some of you president-elects I didn't get a chance to meet because I was in other meetings. So if I didn't get the chance to meet you, I hope to work with you in the future, in this next year as leaders of your chapter. We do record these sessions. I do send out a request for topics in advance if there's anything that's on your mind. We'll still have it anyway, even if we don't get topics, and because things always come up, and we always have a really healthy conversation on here with people. So did I miss anything, Kelly?
Nope.
Okay. All right. We may throw some things in the chat that's relevant. This is really your opportunity to share. It's even though we ask for questions, it's pretty informal. Just raise your hand or come off mute if you have something that you want to add to the conversation. And if you have something to share, you can either send it to Kelly or myself, or share it in the chat, and we'll share it with the rest of the group. So with that, I didn't get any specific topics, and as always, I do have a couple things in my back pocket, but I thought I'd throw it out to you all to see if there was something you came with today that you have questions on or want some feedback on from your peers. Okay. Well, let's talk about conference then, because it was amazing. And I have been going to more than 20 conferences, I think, but back in the day, we used to have 2 conferences a year. So I'm not quite that old, but, and I seriously think it was the best conference ever, but there's always things. So are there things that you enjoyed or things that you would like to see done differently that you would like to share?
You know what, Crystal? I haven't been to nearly as many conferences as you. I've been to maybe 4, 5, something like that. I feel like this was the best conference, and I have been racking my brain trying to figure out why I feel that way. And I can't pinpoint anything. It was just the entire vibe, the entire feeling. Every single educational session that I went to was amazing. There wasn't one where I felt like, oh my gosh, I've got another 45 minutes of this. It was a great, it's my favorite conference I've been to. It was amazing. So
awesome.
great.
I'm glad you feel the same.
I'm just going to say that's because it was in Texas, and we should do them all in Texas because that's very true. Thank you.
Well, the chapter party was definitely amazing. One thing I thought about actually this morning was it would be nice to have, and if there was one and I missed it, forgive me, this type of a meeting at conference, a president sharing session. I know that there's the training, but it's mostly like president-elects, and I know they're sharing and communicating, but it would be cool to kind of have a little area where we could connect in person, like at a certain time where, you know, all these people that we've been meeting over Zoom for the past year to kind of get in person and chat.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of speak to that if you'd like.
Sure.
So we do have the chapter leader lounge that's open both Thursday and Friday. Last year we actually did like a happy hour to meet, and we received feedback that there wasn't really a good time to have that based on, you know, we want to be in the exhibit hall, or we want to be in the education sessions, or there's a different happy hour taking place. And so just because everything was so packed, so we did hold one last year, and I think only 2 people came to it. And again, it was the overall feedback of, well, I couldn't make that time. Could we have done this time? And then, you know, it was across the board just because there's so much happening. That doesn't mean that we can't look into that in the future and maybe organically say, hey, we've got the lounge here, you know, come and share or have that. So definitely open to that feedback for next year. But that's kind of why this year we didn't have that organized spot in the lounge just from the previous feedback that we received.
Yeah, I can see that because honestly, your schedule's so cram-packed. I mean, like I didn't even make it to the PCAM thing because I'm like, no, that conflicts with this. So I can see where that would be difficult. I didn't go last year, so didn't realize that you guys had held one, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, when would I fit that in? So
Yep.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sarah Marie, you asked a similar question or comment on scheduling and having the president stuff on a different day other than training options. Are you meaning the educational sessions for conference?
Right. So as a first-time attendee to the conference, there were a lot of things that I would have loved to have attended, but because I'm also president-elect, I didn't get to go to any of them because I got to spend all that fabulous time with you guys, which is great. But there was so much that I would like to do because while I do this job, I have an actual job that I do outside of being the volunteer for the CAI board. So it would have benefited my job if I could have gone to those other things and therefore made a better use of my time. So I would have loved to have seen that all the president-elect stuff. Maybe we start when you guys do the, Monday, Tuesday, training, learning things for all of the extra classes. See, Darla likes it. Darla and I are BFFs, by the way. But that way we could still learn all those other things and go to those other classes and do some other things. Because yeah, there's already parties at night, there's all that stuff, but I didn't feel like I got to do the real conference experience on my first time, just because it was new to me.
Yeah, it's a challenge for us. So back in the day, we used to have this training on Thursday and Friday, and there was no opportunity to go at all. And so then we over time, we tried to play around with scheduling and whatnot. Then we said, okay, we're going to have it just on Wednesday. And we tried that for a couple of years, and then we were getting, well, that's not enough time. So then we added back in Thursday morning. So it's a juggling act, and it's challenging. So we very much appreciate that feedback, Sarah Marie, and we'll take that into consideration. Our concern on Monday and Tuesday is if people are planning to be there for conference, that's an entire week out of the office, and that, like you said, you all have a day job as well. So, and we want you to experience conference. We want you to come and get the training. It's a great place to do that. But part of the reason we have the training at conference is for people like you that haven't been able to go. Here's your opportunity to go. We want you to do both, but there's 12,000 things going on. So yes, we appreciate that challenge, and we'll continue to look at that. There were a lot of great sessions. I didn't get to go to many myself, and I wanted to mention there is an email that either went out today or is going out today that has a wrap up from conference. It has photos, and it also has a link to the recorded sessions. So I know it's not the same, but there are some recorded sessions that you can listen to if you didn't get an opportunity to attend some of those things.
That went out this morning. I received it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. Sean?
Is the leader lounge, is that available for past presidents as well, or is it just current and president-elects?
We've only invited presidents, but Kelly and I aren't going to kick you out, Sean. So
well, the only reason why I make a statement like that is people who are past presidents have went through the experience, and I think can provide a lot of additional insight when people ask for it. And networking potential in that leadership lounge was important for me when I was president-elect, speaking to people who are going through it currently, but I think people who have went through the experience for a whole year can really provide insight into what it's like.
Absolutely. We can certainly take a look and see if there's a way we can invite that, do a special invitation to them.
Sure.
Kelly, you want to share about the session with the past presidents?
Yeah, and I'll also share too, just kind of feeding onto this, and then I'll do the past president session. If you have multiple people that are coming that are true leaders and you think it would be beneficial to have them in the lounge, we have completely welcomed them into the lounge with open arms. Usually it's me talking with the chapter executive directors. So if you do have multiple volunteers coming from your chapter and you think it would be beneficial to have them come in there, or again, just to introduce them, because sometimes, again, we know chapters will bring the person who's going to be the next president-elect also to the conference and kind of getting them ready and feel for that. So please feel free to either touch base with us in the future, and we'll work on our messaging as well to the chapter executive directors around this, because it is really the lounge for the leadership, right? We're having those strategic discussions and those pain point discussions in there, but it's also a lounge for you to network with the peers. And again, I think that's a great space. So I know in terms of that, we're not going to kick out a past president or something like that. It's more if a person's really not supposed to be in there because they're not involved with the chapter or the functioning of the things, that's usually when it's okay, you know, thanks, grab a cup of coffee and go on your way type of thing. But in terms of also past presidents, so if you know of one of your past presidents are going to be attending the conference, please let us know. So we like to do what's called a past president panel. So for the president-elects on the call, that was the Thursday panel. And sometimes we really struggle with getting people who are there, who are willing and able to be a part of that session. And we try to get it for all the different chapter sizes. But again, smaller and medium chapters, their president-elects don't tend to go every year, or the past presidents aren't always there. So again, if you have a past president, please let us know, because we're always looking for people for that panel as well, or as the presidents on this call, as you're transitioning off, if you know you're coming to conference and you would be interested in sitting on that panel, again, please let us know. It's almost more the merrier for that. So.
And
yeah, I have a suggestion.
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
I just had a suggestion for it because I guess like one of the things I'm identifying is just not even knowing the opportunity. So what about being able to see, you know, if there was already a president that has been president before, is there a way that CAI could like identify that? I didn't know. I've been president before for another chapter, and I would have loved to been able to help. I'm a helper and give back to a lot of my you know, both chapters and others. So I guess I just didn't even know that you guys needed help, to be honest. I mean, had I been asked or even thought about, but I was president in 2017. So that's where it kind of triggers. If you guys can identify the presidents coming through that are new or, you know, existing or had been done it, you know, president before, that maybe you could reach out to them. I guess I would have said yes. So
yeah, so I will say we relate a lot on our chapter executive directors for that information, just because again, right now,
totally,
you know, full disclosure, it's a very manual process that we're tracking a lot of this, and people change names, and people, again, it's kind of all across the board with it, that if you're a president for one chapter, we might not realize you're the same person for another chapter, just because it is a very manual tracking of that right now.
Yeah.
But again, I think as long as your executive directors are also knowing some of this information, especially if it's for a different chapter, again, we'll push with them too to be a little bit stronger to make sure that, hey, even if it's your past or your president-elect, but they've served before as a president, whether it's your chapter or not, we'll work on that communication too, with that, because some of it, it's just, I'm going to be completely honest, it's very hard to track, especially multi-years past. I know we've had a couple of people serving as president-elect, again, that served early in the 2000s, and now they're back on boards again. So again, any way that you guys can help us with that, please help us.
If you guys are sending out notifications to us, which we get quite a few from national throughout the year anyway, is there not a way that you could just put a blurb in there somewhere ever so often and say, in preparation for our upcoming you know, conference, we're seeking yada yada, and at least on the national side, national level, you would have, you may not hit everybody because not everybody reads them, you know, like they should, but then again, those that do read it would see it and go, hey, you know, I wouldn't mind doing that.
Yeah,
Maybe that's just another way, other than, I'll be honest with you, I came out and I hugged my executive director, because I told her, I said, I'm blown away by some things that I've heard. And so not every chapter is fortunate as I feel like our chapter is in that area, in feeding information up and down. So maybe if on the national level, you just put a little blurb, that might be another way to encourage attendance.
Absolutely. Thank you for that feedback, because I know, again, we're communicating with the chapter executive directors with that, but if you guys don't mind also seeing that information, then absolutely. So I'm seeing a lot of head nods. So we'll start communicating that to you as well. So thank you for that.
On that same note, if there's topics that you maybe your chapter does well, or that you're struggling with, that you would like to see in that informal format or more formal, like we have webinars. Those of you that are president-elect, you may not have seen a lot of that yet, but you will. If there are topics, let us know. And we're happy to share the stage, if you will, with any of you or any of your executive directors if there's something that you think you do amazing that could benefit other chapters. Certainly that is no problem at all. On that note, as far as communications, specifically for the president-elect, you should be receiving a weekly email that comes through our exchange group that it says CAI chapter presidents, chapter leader connection. It comes from Emily Jennings typically. That has updated information week by week of things that are going on and just things that you need to know as a leader. If you're not receiving that, please reach out to us and let us know so that we can find out what the issue is and make sure you're getting that. That's really a great place to look. That is also searchable. So if you're like, I know I saw something about X, you can certainly go and look that up. The other forum that we have for discussion in that same platform that we call Exchange is if you go to www.caionline.org/exchange, you can put in your CAI password, and that is one of the groups is CAI presidents, and it's for presidents and president-elects. So this is a great forum, but if you're like, oh gosh, we're really struggling with an educational topic, I don't know who to ask, I could email Crystal. Well, that's only going to be my information. But if you email each other, you're the wealth of information. I'm taking it from you and what I hear from you. So please share with one another. You guys are the best opportunity to get good information on questions that you have and how you're handling that. We have a separate one for executive directors. So if it's something about staffing, you don't need to worry about your executive director seeing that as well. Okay, any other comments on conference? Okay, I have a question that was in the chat from a president-elect that is concerned about managing her real job, the one that pays the bills, and the chapter presidency. So for some of our chapter presidents on the line, do you have any advice for this president-elect to help manage it all?
Delegate.
Linda, go ahead, Linda.
Delegate as much as you can.
Okay. Who do you delegate to?
Well, I run my own business and I'm a property manager as well. So what I started doing is I put the pressure on my board of directors. And I've told my board of directors, and we're going to start implementing it in every meeting, a reminder that we're doing this as a team. And as a team, each person has to do their part, because otherwise the president feels the load of everything because you're leading everybody. But on every person has to do their little bit so that together it's the whole thing. So just asking for involvement, tagging them on things, making them accountable, for their position and what they signed up for. And that's how right now, that's how I'm getting my whole group. My team so far has been very receptive to it and has been, it's taking a little bit of time, but with a little bit of charm and a little bit of caressing, you can get everybody to work together somehow. So I work my little charm and I try to tell them, it's my whole board is new. practically. So we're all working together. So it's a learning curve for everybody. But since I run my own business, I said, it's like, you guys we're all a team. And to make this work, we all have to put a little bit of piece of each one of us, because my president-elect has awesome ideas. I have awesome ideas. My treasurer has awesome ideas, my secretary, everybody. So let's put them all together and let's work together, because the ideas are good. The implementation is the hard part. And that's what everybody, I just tell them, let's do it. How do we do it? How do we get this done? So, and
Great,
putting
that's
it
great.
on
Thank you,
them.
Linda. Great.
For me, Crystal, a big part of it was the first time I was president. I didn't know what I was going to be getting into. There is so much that goes on. I mean, you have your board meetings, but there's so much that goes on outside of board meetings when your executive director contacts you and says, hey, we have this issue. How do you want to handle it? So we started a couple of years ago, or I actually started it with, I loop my president-elect into those emails. I've asked my executive director, I'm like, anything you email me on, I mean, unless it's super, super sensitive and we just want to talk about it first, send it to my president-elect as well, because that way they may not be interacting in it, but they're getting an idea of what goes on behind the scenes. So if you're not being looped in with your current president on the behind the scenes stuff, ask them to do that. From the newsletter articles, it wasn't even something I thought about. I knew they came out every month, but I didn't think about it until all of a sudden I'm president. It's like, hey, I need your newsletter article. And I'm like, wait, what? When? Oh my gosh, I have to write something. So, and then the voice articles, we have, the magazine that comes out quarterly that we have to write something for. We have to write an introduction for the directory. Like, I didn't think about any of that stuff. So there are things to think about. And once I was aware of them, I started planning ahead. Like, I've already written July's newsletter, and it's June because I know I'm going to be on vacation in July. And, I'm already working on my next edition of my quarterly magazine article because there's national that took place. And I'm like, okay, here's some notes on that. So just knowing that stuff is going to come up and be expected of you will help you prepare better. So if your president isn't looping you in, talk to them and ask them to get you looped in on some of the behind the scenes stuff that you're going to be expected to do and deal with so that you can plan for that.
Good feedback. Thank you, Jennifer. Other presidents want to share?
Like Jennifer, we at the very start of the year, we always have we loop in the president-elect. So we have we're a small chapter, but I have a phone conference with the executive director and myself and the president-elect. From January, we have 2 a month, just 15 minutes to a half hour to go over topics, like Jennifer said, to loop them in and let them know what they're getting themselves into. And creating checklists, to me, is the important part. Kind of like what the other person said, holding people accountable. I think it was Linda, and delegating. So before, we used to have a lot of the president just taking over all of the lunch and learns. And this year we've delegated that out because of high burnout rates and things of that nature. And also, I think we have a newer board, and that brings in new expectations, which is good because they're green and they're willing to hit the ground running, where sometimes the people who have been on the board for a while, we get lackadaisical, to be, in all honesty.
Absolutely. Haley, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I agree. This is great feedback. I just wanted to add that the chapter executive director is really your soldier. So I think being close to the CED, supporting them, making sure they have, making sure that they have what they need to let them kind of help you with all of the tasks, because we have gone through 2 executive director changes during my time. And it has been so difficult. As soon as your chapter executive director is out of the picture, you are doing everything. I'm grabbing speakers out of storage and showing up at the luncheon and printing out this and creating an invoice here. You will be doing everything if your chapter executive director is not in the picture. So love on your CED, make sure that you're tracking their progress, that they're happy, that the board's happy, try and keep the peace. As long as you have your CED, it will save you.
Awesome. Sean?
That's great advice. I told Tim when they asked me if I would be the president, I said, Tim, I'll only do it if you're still around. Your executive director is very important if you're able to have one. For me, I would say get organized early. Have a strategy session early on in your tenure as president. And at that moment, we invited our committee chairs as well, because we wanted to delegate at that meeting kind of what the goals were for the chapter for the year and how each of the committees can contribute to the success of those goals. So delegate your initiatives, and then don't try for too much. You only have a year. A lot of people told me that. I'm a go-getter. I'm an ambitious individual. I had 3 initiatives. I wish I would have done 2. Because we added a 4th one. We're in the middle of an acquisition of our competition, and that was the 4th one. So I wish I would have only done 2. We did 3, but we're going to get them all done. But I just say, don't be too ambitious. Try for 1 or 2 initiatives, because you only have a year and it goes by so fast. And then my last bit of advice is have fun with it. It's you only get to do it once for a year, and just enjoy your time.
Great advice. I love that. Okay, in the chat, Sarah, go ahead.
To say that as president-elect, I know some of the time has already gone, but try to utilize the 2 years. So that's something that I've done. I kind of did it the first time around. This time around, it was definitely like on the agenda to, like, as I became president-elect, you start thinking about those things that you want to do, and you work with your president, have meetings with your president throughout that year. And then that kind of kick starts so that you're not having to do that in your president year and wasting a lot of time. I am also a go-getter, and I don't like wasting time. So when you do that prep planning, then you can really make the best out of your presidency year.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah.
I'll just add quickly that I think the most helpful thing for me has been to stay out of the operations and let the CED take care of that and kind of be more high level. So that's been a way that I've been able to juggle my presidency. Also, we have this ongoing meeting with presidents and presidents-elect that Sarah and I will have soon, where we talk about goals for the year, and we do it before our budget cycle, so that when you go into your next budget cycle, the president-elect already has their goals and they kind of can fit the budget around that piece too. I think Jennifer mentioned all of the newsletter, president's messages and all that stuff. The other thing that we have is an ongoing list that we pass down from president to president, and we add to it all of the tasks that kind of happen throughout the year, so you're not blindsided, because I also didn't know about the directory and the president's message, but it's been a really helpful document, and you just keep adding to it. So I highly recommend that as well.
Bruce, I would love to see that document,
Yeah.
if you don't mind sharing, and if you don't mind us
Yeah,
sharing with the rest
absolutely.
of the people, that would be awesome.
I think the setup for your president year, like this 6 months leading up to your president year, is probably going to be busier than part of your president year. At least that's how I found. It was like the last half of president-elect and first half of president, and now feels like life is good. No.
Let me ask you a question on that, Ruth. Why do you think that was there specific things that caused you to be more busy, just so that the president-elect can prepare for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was getting a good handle as to what was going on and what the current issues were. Thinking about who committee chairs were going to be to the extent that you had to appoint them. Thinking about what your goals were going to be so that you can implement them in the budget cycle. So your whole kind of strategy for your year is happening right now. I mean, this is when the president-elect should be thinking about what they want to do. And then the first part of the implementation, and we have a lot of events in the beginning of the year too, are kind of major events, which made it busy, but kind of getting into the swing of it, how you're going to run the board meetings, that first half is a little, you're kind of warming up. But then by June, I mean, now it feels like it's smooth sailing.
You're on the end of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like everyone said, I've delegated to other board members. I mean, we have the lawyers on the, review the contracts before it comes up. Like everyone's got a little job, so everyone feels valued and heard, which has been easier for me.
Absolutely. Other topics you guys want to talk about? This has been great conversation so far. I feel like the president-elect, I see all of you writing and everything, which is awesome, taking notes. Okay, anybody have any cool summer events they have planned? Something different and new or something like that you'd like to share?
We switched out our casino night for a night at the racetrack.
Oh,
Which will be, we've never done it before, but we were able to rent off an entire section of it apparently. And we didn't think we'd break even, but we were doing okay financially. So I told Tim, just go ahead, but I think we're going to break even on it as far as sponsorships go. So we'll see how that goes. It's July 27th.
do you have a limit of people for something like that? Or like how does, I mean, I guess it's as big as
I
the
think
racetrack,
it's around 300, so we won't reach that, but I think it was between 200 and 300 was the limit.
Okay.
Is there any way we could get like maybe a sample from other chapters to see what kind of events y'all are doing? Because I know our chapter, I feel like, you know, we do very, very little, our expo, and that's about it. So I was just kind of, I mean, just hearing that alone, I was like, what? So
Kelly,
that'd be
Kelly,
awesome.
We're
Kelly,
doing a really
Kelly,
fun event. Sorry.
that's okay. I was just going to say I'd be willing to put together a smart sheet form, but if you would send it out, it will track.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
If everybody just wants to fill it out, or their EDs can fill it out, and then we'll have a list available via web that we can just look at and we can share it with everybody.
That's
Yeah,
a great
and I was
idea,
gonna
'cause
say,
we don't track necessarily. Go ahead, Kelly. I know what you're gonna probably
yeah,
say.
I was gonna say I've got some generic data that I can provide, but knowing that things change all the time, like if we had this discussion 6 months ago, then Minnesota wouldn't be doing this event, right? And so I know a lot of you are changing things like that. And so I was going to recommend I can start a Google Doc type of thing if you want to put it in there. The other thing I was thinking is this might even be a great way to throw it out through the exchange group and kind of start that discussion through there, because that is searchable. So even if you're looking for a certain type of event, or we could pin that discussion to keep the flow going. So as things are happening, we can have that flow happening. Emily couldn't make the call today, and she's kind of the exchange expert on our team. So I'll discuss with her, but we'll get that out in some way, whether it's a Google Doc or through the exchange group, so we can start building this list that you all have access to, and then also be able to, you know, provide that to others as well, or have that history as things change.
Another suggestion that I have is if you're looking to change things up in your chapter is look to similar size chapters and look on their website. And if you don't know who's similar in size, you know, reach out to one of us. And we can let you know. So because that's always like you look at their website and you're like, oh my God, this is so cool. Why haven't we done this? And you know, we're working in different regions, so you really don't have to, you know, it's a form of flattery that they're copying things that you're doing. I don't feel like we're stealing from each other, if you will.
And if you do
Hey,
a great
Crystal.
event, then please let us know, because we do highlight certain ones, especially if it's completely out of the ordinary and needs, you know, additional feedback or anything. And we do record those and then put those up, like the reverse trade
Reverse trade
show.
show.
We've got that up on the website of how to do that, and a video tutorial type of thing with that. So if you're doing something like that, please let us know, and we can always highlight it in that way as well.
That's what I was going to suggest was the reverse trade show. We started that during my presidency in 2017 for the Oregon chapter. It was like the best event. There was reasons behind where it came from, but it was the biggest money generating event that we had. I mean, it blew everything else out of the water. And what the reverse trade show was is essentially the opposite. We, you know, got all the managers that we could inside of a room, and we did like speed dating the opposite way. And vendors, you really had to get vendors, you know, you got competition there. You had people, there was just different strategies about it. And then the managers wanted to be there because they needed new vendors to call and, you know, help their associations out. So when you leveraged both of what their needs were and you put them both in a room, then you could start tagging or price pointing for people that are not members and members. So you could really like generate a lot for your chapter. And it was huge for us, even within the first year. So that would be my recommendation for any chapter considering.
And the CED for Western Oregon, Laura was involved in that. Oh, and Kelly put the exact link in there for the reverse trade show, so you can see that there. And then we also, Kelly and I each put in there the leadership channel. So we have a YouTube channel that has recordings of different sessions. So that's also a good place to look for ideas. Chris, are you New Jersey? Here's Chris on my screen.
Yes, Chris is New Jersey. Yes.
Chris is New Jersey. Okay. Doing a CAI Olympics to make money for Make-A-Wish. Okay. Raised around $10,000. Okay. Awesome. That information is in the chat. Thank you, Chris. Kathy, this is your first. Okay, she's getting off. That's what Kathy's telling us, right? Did I? Okay. Other comments, questions?
This is off topic, but I just got my poster from the conference frame, so y'all can't really see it because I'm in whatever, but it looks awesome. I'm so excited.
You frame is it a standard size for a frame?
We did the poster. I don't know if it's standard. I don't know. My staff ordered it for me, so
awesome. Yeah, because I just had our designer sign a couple for me, and I'm like, I want to get one to frame to put in my office. I was curious. And speaking of which, so if you weren't at conference, and actually I have a background on too. Let me see if I can take my background off just to show anybody who doesn't have them. But if you have a bigger event coming up, we can send you all some of those posters. Grace, she's probably like telling me to stop talking at this point, but they're really cool and the members really like them. Hang on 1 second. Don't look at my messy office. So it's very cool. It's representative of the industry, and this was hand drawn by one of our graphic designers. So we have them available. We'll send them to you if you have a trade show or something coming up or a larger event. Let us know.
So something that I was just sort of thinking about when I was at National, do we have any sort of way that we can all start maybe following each other's chapters on social media to support one another, like, comment, maybe, share information that way?
Yeah, so we have a document with all of the social media for the chapters. So we can definitely share that if you want to start following each other and things like that. We'll make a note too that if you do have something that maybe we don't know about, like, so for example, I know some chapters are starting to do Instagram. And so we usually do that check of social media accounts every 2 years or so. So again, if something's different on there, you can let us know, but we can definitely share that out in the weekly email with you all so that you can start doing that as well.
Thank you.
That's a great idea because we put all of our events out on social media. So if we're following each other, we'll see the events that other people are doing.
Absolutely. And everybody wants more likes and that kind of thing, right? So I try to like as many things as I see come through from all of you.
Yeah, we're a pretty small chapter, and we got really excited when we started getting more Instagram followers than we have members. So that was an exciting day.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Other questions, comments, information you want to share?
While you're thinking about that, I'm going to drop a link into the chat about our Community Conversation Live webinar coming up next week. So I know we have a couple of chapters who want to do a breakout room. For those of you who don't know what Community Conversations Live is, this is a complimentary webinar for our members around a hot topic. So this one is engaging residents and building community. But we offer the chapters to be able to do a regional breakout room. And so this can be a chapter leader hosting the discussion. If you have another volunteer or business partner, I know some chapters have even sold sponsorships to their breakout rooms to utilize another revenue avenue for that. But so that's June 14th, so next week. If you're interested, Crystal, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're still, if you want to have a breakout room, we still have availability for that. So please feel free to reach out to either of us to reserve that breakout room for that. Haley, I think you had a question.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. Just wanted to ask, what are your chapters doing for CAM Appreciation Day next week?
Good question. So next Tuesday, June 13th, every year is International Community Association Managers Day. It's our second year. Anybody have anything planned?
We have a luncheon, an educational luncheon on Thursday, and our executive director sent out to my president-elect and I, and with these little keychains, and it was a multi-box like on Amazon that just said "you are appreciated." There were like 4 or 5 different sayings, and they were just little silver keychains. What you do matters, things like that, and we're going to hand them out at the registration table.
That's great.
I think we sent out something to the chapter. If they wanted to participate, they could have a picture of them on our chapter's social media. But I don't know if that's something that every chapter does or not. Still learning all of it.
I was just unmuting Sierra to say, oh, also we did something on social media. Yeah, you can send in a picture and we'll spotlight you on social media.
Awesome. We're always looking for different ideas. We kind of, this year we just changed CED, so we were scrambling to try and get something together, and we ended up just doing like a little goodie of mug with a Starbucks gift card, and we're giving them to the CAMs at the luncheons, those who attend. So, and then we're going to do a drawing. We're letting our business partners contribute to a summer gift bag. And so the business partners are just throwing in like a $25 gift card or a cooler or water park tickets or something. And so we'll give that away at a drawing later in the month. We'll just draw a name from our registered CAMs. But I don't know, we're always looking for different ideas. Like I said, we were kind of scrambling this time.
Okay. All right. Did I miss any hands in the chat? Or hands or the chat, I should say. All right, very good. Kelly threw in the chat the link for International Community Association Managers Day. So there's some things on there that are easy to share. If you don't have anything planned, you can go ahead and use some of our stuff. We're totally good with that. Yeah. Any other comments or questions? All right, so we'll have this meeting again next month. This recorded session will be populated online. We'll send a link in that weekly email that I mentioned. So you can either go back or you can share it with any of your presidents or president-elects that were unable to join. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions today, and we hope to see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Crystal and Kelly.
Thanks.
Thank you.